G'day, it's Justin Hogg from RightSource indoors today. Today we're going to have a little bit of chat about automation and also I suppose some of the concerns around that, but also I think some of the opportunities that will come that I don't know if everyone realises. So we'll hear about the robots are coming, and with the changes that have happened recently in the last month or so, the level of moving towards automating processes and businesses is, if anything, accelerating. So what might have been automated maybe in a year or two could be getting automated next month or even tomorrow. So there's a lot of changing, and the automation is happening, and it's having a lot of an impact on employees where they're fearful of losing their jobs and they're not sure what's going to happen. So one of the interesting things I came across probably about 2 months ago now was a couple of industry reports that said that we would have a shortage of employees coming up in the next couple of years. It got me thinking, how could that be the case? Because we keep talking about automation in terms of, well, it'll help us effectively get rid of employees out of businesses and have robots doing work, versus industry reports around human resources and unemployment levels talking about there being a shortage of employees, so that there's more jobs than people. I sort of thought about this a bit, and I can see where this is going. So this is what I wanted to share with you today, was how automation can actually potentially create more jobs. In the first area of this, let's take you through an example. Say you work in accounts payable, which is a job that is to a fair extent, quite repetitive, very process orientated, something that is very easily automated given where automation is these days. So say you're in an accounts payable role and someone's coming in to automate the role. It won't be bang, switch on, it's completely automated. They'll do it step by step. So they'll take one process, they'll work out how that's done, and then they'll create the program or the automated processing so that that gets automated. And then they'll take the next process and the next process, the next process. So it takes a little while to go through, but eventually you'll be left with the majority of your job automated and a little bit left over. And that's ultimately where companies go, well, for that little bit, rather than having 4 people do a little bit, we'll just put one person on and they'll do all that other stuff that hasn't been able to be automated. That's what we all fear, that we will be kicked out because all of our job will be automated. Now, that's great in terms of that step, but as you would have experienced in your working career doing that type of role, whenever does everything stay the same? So there's changes in legislation, there's changes in software, people decide to go to new software, or there could just be change in the way the business is run or managed. And these things always flow down to how things are processed and how operations occur. So when that happens, when you've got these robots in place, you actually need to go back and reprogram the robot. So you have one process, you need to go back and look at that process and change it for whatever changes happen in the business. So that takes a bit of work. So now there's someone who has to do that. The other thing that then happens is that that's just one process. There's a flow-on effect. Robots don't understand the flow-on effect. They are the ultimate at doing, this is the way we've always done it. So that's what robots do. They will always do it the same way until they're told to do it differently. The new type of role that will happen will be those roles where people are ensuring the robots are doing their job and are able to adapt to changes in the environment, in the systems. The people who will be doing this will be those people who understand how the job has to be done. So the experience that you've got in doing that role will give you an ability to move into a role where you're actually managing the robots. And the interesting thing here is that with all the robots starting to do all that type of work, there won't be a lot of people learning these skills again. So your skills that you've gained in your career in doing that work will actually become more valuable the further down the path of automation happens. That all sounds like a great idea and fanciful, but no one really knows that, because we have to wait to see what automation does, and then, once that happens, we'll all lose our jobs. And I'm just basically making this up or looking to the future and thinking what I believe. Well, automation's happened before, and we can see that from history. So I'll give you two examples where automation's actually created more jobs. So when the automatic teller machines came out in banking, there was a massive fear through the banking industry that there'd be a huge reduction in employment, because at that point, before automatic teller machines came in, the core job in the banking industry was tellers sitting in the bank handing out money. Now that was all going to be automated by the automatic teller machines. So they came in, and what happened in the banking industry was actually an increase in employment, because the banking industry no longer had to do this processing. They actually focused on delivering service and value to the customers and building that relationship, which actually created the need for more staff, increased the value of the industry. So that automation didn't destroy jobs, it actually created new jobs, which is what people keep talking about when talking about automation. The other area in automation, which is very close to my industry, is in 1980s, 1990s, the accounting industry went through a massive automation, which was moving from paper-based written ledgers to computer-based. Took away a whole heap of manual work and automated it. And again, what happened was accountants didn't lose their jobs. What we actually found was accounting began to find better ways of delivering value to businesses and clients. So there was more value created, there was better reporting started being quicker, there's more information. So the actual industry grew in terms of the employment, but also in terms of the types of jobs that were being done. As opposed to a very narrow band, it became quite a broad band and quite diverse in terms of the roles being done. Automation is definitely short term when you're in there and your job's being automated, very scary. But holistically and over the longer period, automation is going to create a lot of new jobs and a lot of new ways of having to look at things that we haven't ever had to do before. And ultimately, it will actually potentially create more jobs than it's replacing. And one of those areas that I'm personally very excited about is that governance automation, where people will be having to understand the processes the robots are going through and effectively being able to manage them and manage the changes that happen and the flow-on effects of those changes. That's my take on automation. I hope that gives those out there who are a bit fearful of it, I suppose, a bit of hope. And anyone who's interested in talking more about the governance of automation, I'd be happy to have a conversation about that and the things that we can start putting in place now to make sure automation that you do continues to do its job as the environment changes and you're across that as it goes. Thanks for watching today. It was great to talk about automation. There's obviously a lot more videos on the YouTube channel about accounting and also about those interrelated topics that have a touch point on accounting. So feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, stay tuned and I'll catch you guys next week. It's Justin Hogg from RightSource.